Hello everyone, Namaste. I am Nishansh Pokharel from Nepal, Kathmandu. Uh, and happy Folklore Day to everyone. So since it's Folklore Day, I want to share a small story from Kathmandu. Well, as you know, or as you don't know, our culture has like thousands and thousands of gods and goddesses. And like we have a goddess for every little thing, from water, air, fire, food, and even rakshi or alcohol. But this time around, I want to share you a story about the goddess of tales. धेरै अघि काठमाडौँमा एकजना राजा थिए. A long time back in Kathmandu, there was a king. And this king loved listening to stories. So he used to invite every night storytellers from all across the world to come to his court and tell him stories. But this king also had a bad habit. And that bad habit was falling asleep halfway through those stories. And the goddess of tales was not having this. The goddess felt insulted at the king's bad habit. So she decided to send a message through one of his most loyal and trustworthy aides, his minister or mantri. She appeared in this mantri's dream and told him to tell the king that if he either listened to the whole story or none of it. So mantri went and conveyed the goddess's message to the king. The king lightly promised the minister that he would stay awake during the stories. But after the story was being told, his eyes started drooping and he fell asleep. Even with the prodding and poking, he still fell asleep. The goddess was furious at this. Even with all the warnings, the king still dared to sleep during the story. So she reappeared at the minister's dream and forecasted the king's death. She said, I will kill the king with a needle in his food, so that when he eats it, he will die. If he survives by any chance, when he goes hunting and rests under a tree, I will make sure to make a branch fall down and crush him to death. Even if this plan fails, I shall succeed when I send a venomous snake to bite him in the bedchamber. But if you tell this to king, instead of the king, it is you who shall die, and you will be turned into stone. So the mantri was in a dilemma now. He was loyal to the king and didn't want him to die. But at the same time, he didn't want to die himself by being turned into stone. So the mantri stayed quiet. He thought about saving the king in secrecy instead. So that night, when the king fell asleep during the story as usual, even with the mantri's effort of trying to keep him awake, he still fell asleep. So the next morning, just when the king was about to eat, the mantri searched for his food. And lo, the needle was there. That evening, the king fell asleep during the story again. And the next day, the king set out on a hunt. The minister shadowed him all the while. As the king rested under a tree, the mantri was looking carefully around the branches. And as he saw a branch about to fall down, he quickly pulled the king away to safety. The king was saved, and the king thanked the minister graciously over and over again. Now, the minister was worried about the snake. And as he recalled, the snake would bite him in the bedchamber. So, when the king fell asleep like usual during the story, the minister, the mantri, sneaked in the king's bedchamber and hid himself in the corner. After a while, the king and queen came and went to bed. And around midnight, the minister could see something slithering up the bed. The minister took his knife out of his sheath and leapt at the snake. With one queen slice, he beheaded the snake. But as he beheaded the snake, a drop of blood splurted onto the queen's cheek. The minister reached out and tried to wipe the blood away from the queen. But at that same exact moment, dang, the king woke up. Misunderstanding the minister's intention, the king thought that the minister was trying to seduce the queen. So he was sentenced to death. The minister couldn't even clarify his intentions, because if he did, he would be turned to stone. So he stayed quiet. But as he was about to walk to the gallows, he had a change of heart. He didn't want the king to misunderstand his loyalty for him. So instead, he wanted to tell the king everything. So he asked the king for one last wish, and that was an audience with the king himself. The king agreed, and the minister told him everything. From the very beginning, he told him how he saved the king from the needle, the branch, and even the snake. But as he finished the story, he was turned to stone. From that day onwards, the king was completely heartbroken. He lost his most faithful and trustworthy servant. And he was completely dismayed. So from that day onwards, he either never listened to the story at all, or when he did, he paid his utmost respect to the rest of tales and listened to the whole story. This is a saying we have in Nepal. It means a golden necklace for listeners, a flower necklace for the storytellers. This is kind of a tradition we use in Nepal. We say this phrase at the end of every story. And happy Folklore Day again, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Have a nice night.